Welcome to the video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at this model here. Now this is something that came out at the beginning of August and we've been thinking about getting one, and a couple of subscribers asked us about it. So we've got our hands on one and we're going to take it out of the box and set it up and take it for a fly. We're also going to use this model for another video that we'll do shortly, which is how you set up an FrSky Tyrannus with something like this, because a lot of subscribers have responded very positively to a recent video where we set up the OpenTX with a plane. So we're going to do this as a nice example to step you through all the things you need to do. So we'll get a couple of videos out of this model. I need to say a very big thank you to the team at HolyBro. Those are the guys and girls that actually sent us this to have a crack at. So what I'm going to do is quickly unbox it. We'll talk about the key main features of this little guy, because there's quite a bit of technology in here, and then we'll get out to actually fly it and we'll see what it's like in real life. Now there's a couple of different sizes of this. There's lots of this class of model starting to appear, which is almost like this pancake style. So rather than being lots of discrete electronics stacked away in carbon fiber plates held together with spacers with lots of air around them, this and a couple of others that we're about to look at on the channel have this very kind of flat, all-enclosed setup. So let me take it out of the box and show you what it looks like. The first thing you notice when you take it out of the box is that it's actually in a case. Now this is a really nice case. It immediately kind of starts to talk about quality. So let's hope that this continues all the way through the product. It's going to make it very easy to transport. If you open the case, in the top you have the manual and you have spare props and other things as well. And then this is how you find this little guy inside, even with a circular polarized antenna. Hallelujah. I'm not sure what the quality is. It doesn't look bad from initial view. It's decent quality. So let me talk about what this thing actually is. It's a 250 racing quad. It has a F3 based 32-bit flight controller, so very similar to a lot of the flight controllers that are already out there. We'll connect it up to the PC and we'll see what it's actually running. It's probably going to be Clean Flight or Beta Flight or something like that, but we'll have a look and set it up. It has a inbuilt FPV camera and transmitter. There is the slot there, so it's an SMA style connector, which is perfect for me for all my Fat Shark styly bits and pieces. It has a camera at the front, which is PAL NTSC switchable, 700 TVL. The really nice thing is, I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, it's actually on an anti-vibration mount, which is a really cute idea, and it's the kind of camera, I'll try and get it so the camera can kind of see in there past the prop, that's pretty standard. So we've got lots of those different house cameras, so we could try something else. And the mount that the camera's on is made so you can get a strap through it. So if you want to put something like a Mobius on top or a GoPro or whatever to record the flight, you absolutely could. That is a really cute way of doing it. It's carbon fiber plate on the top, and it looks pretty thick carbon fiber by the look of it. That looks probably 3.5, and it looks like a composite plate at the bottom. It doesn't look like carbon fiber, but again, turning it over, I'm spotting things like there's a little central gravity line. That's probably in the middle of where the flight controller is. Again, that's a really cute idea. The ESCs in the arms are one shot 125 30 amp 40 amp burst capable ESCs, so those are nice spec. Those are the kinds of things that I'll be putting in any 250 class quad that I'll be building at the moment. The motors have a little bit higher kV than normal. They're again 2205 size motors, but these are 2550 kV. Now we run a lot of 2300 class on a lot of the different models. We tend to use the Emax ones, so that's either 2205, 2300 is pretty standard, or if you want insane performance, then the 2205, 2600 is crazy, and these are more like those 2600, so that'll be interesting. Running tri-blade 5 by 4.5 inch props. There's also a full set of spares of these in the bag, which is cool. The other nice thing about this is the way you order it with the receiver in that you're actually interested in. It comes in 3 different variants. So there's one for FrSky, which is what we have here. So we have a little FrSky receiver in here, so we'll bind it up and play with the Tyrannus. No LEDs anywhere for orientation that I can see. It's probably the only thing I haven't spotted on here that I might want. Everything else, it seems to be here right out the box. You can either get it for Spectrum DSMX compatible receivers if you have a Spectrum radio, or you can have it for Futaba as well. So if you already have Futaba or an FR Sky or a Spectrum radio, you can order it and it will already come with the relevant receiver installed, and you can get to it with the bind plug. Again, just spotting things I'm looking here that kind of speaks to quality, which I'm hoping will continue throughout the rest of the review. Things like this sticker over here about plugging in the FPV antenna before attaching the power. Really cute idea. We talk about that a lot in the videos, and I've had lots of subscribers who've blown electronics by not popping the FPV antenna into the transmitter before they do it. The transmitter itself is selectable between 25 and 600 milliwatts. There's a little jumper in here that can change it. It would have been nice if it was 25 and 250. In a lot of places, that kind of 600 milliwatt range is just way too big. A lot of people will either fly legally on 25 or have the ability to go up to 200 or 250 for slightly longer range. Would have been probably two more sensible values for that. It's either 25, which is very little range, or 600 milliwatts, which is about as big as you're going to get. Battery straps all integral, and again, cute little touches like a foam rubber pad here to grab the bottom of the battery. So, initial impressions are very, very positive. This is not bad at all. I think it's about £190 from the couple of places that I found it online. Let's plug in the antenna just before we go any further, and let's fire it up and connect it up to the computer and see what's actually on here. Looking at the specs, I think it's going to be clean flight, but let's see how it's all configured. So we've powered up CleanFlight and connected the model. It looks like the model is also powering the radio receiver as well, so I'm not having to apply main power to be able to look at the channels, which is awesome. So let me show you very quickly what I found. By default, the level setting is pretty spot on, so it looks like that's all been calibrated. We have a basic gyro and accelerometer here. There's no magnetometer or barometer, so it's the more basic version of the flight controller, but that's going to be fine. Look at the ports. Then we have UART3 set up for serial receiver. That's probably in case of the need for an S-bus out. With the receiver as it's in at the moment, it's working fine. Configuration, we have motor stop and we have one shot 125 turned on. So that is pretty much set. It's set for an S-bus serial receiver, which that explains why port 3 here is set for serial receiver, because with that turned on and in configuration, the receiver here being set for S-bus, so I've actually got a nice strong S-bus signal, so we should have up to 16 channels to play with. That's great. And then we have battery voltage is all turned on, so it looks like VBAT is all configured too. And then we have black box recording turned on as well. So pretty standard stuff so far. We have a little data flash too. Fail-safe settings are set up, so we have a couple of different things in here that I'm probably going to change around. By default, auxiliary 1 switch is set to ARM, auxiliary 2 is set to turn on and off air mode, which is great for acrobatics. But for our first flight, we might tweak that a little bit. The receiver settings, so all I had to do in here was actually change it to throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder 1, 2, 3, 4 to map it correctly, because unfortunately that was just the way that my Tirana set it up. So now the throttle moves okay, the rudder is fine, and the elevator and aileron all work too. I have a 3-position switch on the Tiranas that's just there to flick between 3 flight modes, but that's just auxiliary 1. Jumping into flight mode, by default, this is what we've got. We've got an ARM and we've also got air mode. Lots of people will like this. Personally, I'm not a big fan. I'm going to get rid of both of those. I like arming on the stick. So I'm going to say that angle is going to be that. I'm going to say that horizon is going to be that. I'm going to probably tick on air mode as well. Click save. There we go. So now at one position of the switch is angle, middle one's going to be horizon with air mode, the top one's going to be rate with air mode. So that'll give me my 3 bits and pieces. Okay, so this looks like it's come pretty well set up. So the last thing I'm going to do then is on the failsafe here, I'm going to say that we're actually going to have it set to angle mode, which is going to be down there at kind of the 1100 level, and that way it's going to have angle mode. The rest of the fail-safes are going to be throttle low and everything else is level. That means it's going to snap it into level if there's a problem. So now we've checked everything in clean flight, the last thing to do then is very quickly pop the props back on. I do want to show you this because this shows that they have really thought about this. There's a little tool in the box, and the tool is there to hold the top of the motors because the motors are encased inside the arms for safety, and once that's there, then that allows you to get onto the nuts on the top to tighten the prop nut up. Really cute idea, and again, just one of those little things in here that's quite impressive. Just a note as well about how I bound the Tyrannus to this model. Now I selected protocol, which is for an X series receiver, and just treated it like an X series receiver, and it's worked absolutely fine, with one word of caution. Now to bind it, what you do is put your Tyrannus into bind mode. There's a little bind button under this little hole here. You just press that in, and then you plug your battery in, and then you've bound up. Now I'm using a Tyrannus radio that's not running EU firmware on the transmitter just to test it, and it bound up straight away. So this looks like it's a receiver that's not running the EU firmware. So if you have a Tyrannus receiver here in the EU and the transmission electronics has been flashed and is using the EU firmware, and if you bought it after about February 2015, it probably does that, check with the supplier before you get this model that that's going to work, in case there's another version of it that actually has the EU specific firmware on the receiver that's in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fly it with a slightly bigger battery than we talk about. In the manual it talks about using like a 1500. I've actually found with a 1500 I was struggling to get the centre of gravity spot on, but I've pulled out a 4S 1800 milliamp hour pack, and when I pop this into the battery compartment, unfortunately it does cover all the displays at the back, so I'm going to have to make sure everything's all fine before I set this up, but it does now mean that that centre of gravity line that's underneath is exactly where it's balancing. So let's go and put it all back together, charge the battery, take it out to the field, and see what this little monster's like. So here we're at the field. It's a nice fine day. I'm just going to do some very basic flying around just to kind of show you how much power this thing has. Bottom right hand corner is the on-screen display, so you can get an idea of what the camera's doing and also what the on-screen display actually looks like. Now I'm just poodling it around here. It's hovering at below 1/4 throttle, so there's lots of power. If I blip the throttle, you'll see that it goes up exceptionally quickly. This is a model that has absolutely shed loads of power, and it's an awful lot of fun to fly. The only comment I'll make here is that as I'm flying around, even with things like angle mode and other things turned on, you can tell that the tune on this model isn't as sharp as it probably could be to give you access to all of that extra power that's available in this model from the start. So flicking it side to side, I'm getting little wobbles at the ends of those moves, and we shouldn't be getting those. I have mentioned that to HolyBro, and they are actually getting a couple of pilots who are much better than me to go and do some testing to be able to publish those PIDs and also update the PIDs that get shipped on the model as well. Also, feedback I've had from some of my friends that also have this model is that putting Betaflight on it also with the default PIDs gives a fantastic experience too, straight out the gate. So one of the later videos I might do is pop Betaflight on here and give it another go. Now we're flying here on the 25 milliwatt setting. We have diversity antenna set up on our goggles that's recording the image around my neck, so you can see here that occasionally we are getting a little bit of a hiccup. This is definitely a model, if you like this style and you want tons of power, that it's worthwhile looking at. The components that the manufacturer has chosen is a really good set, and there's tons of potential in this model if the tune is a little bit tighter. But in summary, I like it. I think it's a really nice model. They've done a really good job of putting it together. I'm going to have a play with the PIDs, probably have a crack with Betaflight 2, and might have a crack at changing the camera out. But like I said, I'm kind of nitpicking here on a very, very capable model. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video. There are lots of other videos on the channel and they're carefully ordered into playlists, so you may find that there are other videos on this same subject that you can go and watch. So I would recommend going into the playlist area of Painless360 YouTube channel and looking around and seeing what there is. You never know what you might find. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and happy flying.